Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think we are up and running and we should be good. As we wait for folks to jump in here, what was the issue? I don't know, but I had to update my software for this to work. It is what it is. Great. Go ahead and hit that like button if you would, please. Yeah, I don't know what was the problem on my end. Everything was showing fine, but I guess the audio wasn't coming through. Every time that happens, every time something like that happens, I just immediately know there's been some kind of a software update that I need to look at. What I literally did was restart my software, update it, and it just works. It just updates always mess around with things. So that's what it is. We're good. Hey, it's our first 2 p.m. stream. Now, what I was saying was, this is the regular time for our broadcasts. There might be an exception to Thursdays. I might still do our interviews at 1, but I'm not sure if I can push that to 2 as well. That would be really, really good. It really depends on our guests and how we can do that. I like that our podcasts are live. The interviews that we do with various scholars, I enjoy that being live. But if we can't arrange it, we might have some of them be pre-recorded. I'm not sure, but that's where we're at. I want you guys to be fully aware and know what's going on in regards to the way we move forward from here on out. I do need to change some graphics and make them at 1 p.m., not make them 2 p.m., not 1 p.m. Alpha, what's going on? David, what's going on? Elijah, what's up? What's going on? How you doing? Bob, what's up? I have returned. Good afternoon from Phoenix, Arizona. What's up? It's probably like raining fire in Phoenix right now. Doing well. My voice is for some reason the way it is now. I don't know, man. No, my mic was just fine. It's a software issue. Technology can be very temperamental. Yes, especially when you have one technology connected to another technology, feeding through another technology, coming out to you in your technology. So it can be. Oh man, imagine that. So yes, here we are. Well, good evening from Manchester. Now you might be asking yourself, I know someone commented on the other stream. Jay McCoy said, shave the beard, shave the beard, shave the beard. Why have I not shaved my beard yet? Because Liverpool tied Aston Villa. I blame Jason for that, who was in here saying Aston Villa. So Jason, if you're watching, I blame you in my heart. But why? Why is the beard still there? Well, if you're in the Discord chat, you can see what's going on in the Premier League chat section as we're having a conversation about this subject. Technically, I haven't shaved my beard because there's still a mathematical possibility. Okay. There's still a mathematical possibility that Liverpool ends up in fourth place. The game between Newcastle and Leicester City just finished, and that ended in a tie, which means there's no way Liverpool can catch up to Newcastle because Liverpool has 66 points. Newcastle now has 70 points. Manchester United has 69 points and 2 games to play. They're playing a game on Thursday, and then all the games are going to play Sunday. If Manchester United ties or wins their Thursday game, you're probably going to see me without a beard on Friday. Okay? Don't shave off your beard. If you do, then you'll actually look 38. I'll actually look younger. But so if Manchester United wins their game or ties their game, the only possibility is Manchester United losing their next 2 games and Liverpool winning, which would be so amazing. Not just because I don't get to shave my beard, but because Manchester United gets kicked out of 4th place on the last day of the season, while at the same time, potentially, Everton gets relegated. Oh man, that would be amazing. That would just be amazing. Because Manchester United has to play Leicester City. They're playing Chelsea and then they're playing Leicester City. So Leicester just tied Newcastle. They need their win to get out of that relegation battle. That's where we're at. That is where we're at, ladies and gentlemen. So guys, I said I was gonna shave my beard, and Jacoby's saying, make sure you shave it all the way down to, brother, smooth like a baby. Correct. The idea is if I were to shave, it would be razor shave. I'm just not gonna do it live. Okay. Even if you were going to shave it on stream, it wouldn't be fair to do it without Jerome here watching live. Seems like a personal problem to Jerome. He should be in here. He knows, like, oh, I forgot. I've done someone else's stream. Yeah, just random stuff. It's like, hey, dude, I'm not gonna do it live on stream. It'll be too much. It really would be too much. But bald, unbearded, and biblical hoodies coming soon. Would you agree that hell has been translated from the wrong word, which is Sheol? Would you agree that hell has been translated from the wrong word? It hasn't been translated from the wrong word. The word that's in the King James translated hell. Most modern translations don't translate Sheol as hell, by the way. They'll translate it something like the pit or the grave or the place of the dead, but they will not translate it as hell. The King James translates it as hell when Sheol is mentioned in the Old Testament. So I would agree with that. Do you think God has a long-term plan when he allows bad things to happen? For example, the Holocaust, Armenian genocide. Does he have a long-term plan? I would suppose that he would have to have a long-term plan as well as a short-term plan. I don't know why you're qualifying it as long-term plan. Like, why not just say God has a plan? Or you could even say God has a reason for allowing that. Okay, guys, we got 19 people in here. We got 13 likes. So hit the like button, first and foremost. Second of all, we kind of did this with some people, but drop a comment telling us where you are. Jay, yeah, it would be a culture shock. It would absolutely be a culture shock. Um, yes, it would. By the way, I think I've found something for you. I'll email you today. I've been in conversation with one of my pastor friends in that area, and he's got a friend where it's closer to you. So I'll shoot you a message today after the stream. But yeah, it absolutely would be a culture shock. Not surprised. The planet of New Jersey. Zuma is from Adventure Bay. So again, you guys, I'm most likely would, if we were looking at probabilities, the shave will happen. The beard will be gone on Friday. Diana is in Ohio. Would be cool if you got JD Martin of the Exploring Theology channel. I have no idea who that is. JD Martin. Exploring Theologia. Discuss the Molinist perspective. Okay. Jaden, not sure how much you've been keeping up, but what do you think about Young Don denying Jesus is God? Is he denying Jesus as God? North Carolina, Manchester, Indiana. I thought he's just denying the Trinity. And I would assume he would be arguing for some kind of a oneness or modalistic concept. But I've been watching. So has he actually said he doesn't think Jesus is God, or is he saying something closer to what I'm saying, Jaden? It's very important to represent people properly. If anybody else knows about that situation, please let me know. He's basically Unitarian. Okay. Would you agree, since the tragedy of the Holocaust happened to mostly non believers, God could care less about it? Not necessarily, Keanu. I don't know how that would follow. Someone told you that. Okay. Yeah, I don't know how that follows in any way. That someone would have to go and read, say, the book of Jonah, where Jonah very clearly is saying that God cares for these unbelieving Ninevites. Right? They're not a part of the people of God. They're unbelievers. They're Assyrians, and he doesn't even want to go there. And God says He cares about them. He even cares about their animals. He says. So, I just sometimes people say stuff that they don't deeply think through. Hey man, you can't just jump in here when we've been talking about you for the last 20 minutes or so, and just say stuff. We've spoken about this. You weren't here. I'm sure they were, Jay. Yeah, because he's like Beetlejuice. We say his name 3 times and he shows up.
This is a sickness of the highest order.
Anything can happen. Anything can happen. I'm still holding out hope. You know, the other day we were watching because Liverpool had their final home game, and they did a whole shebang kind of for 4 guys that are leaving, specifically Roberto Firmino. But I'm sitting next to my son, and we're watching this thing, and I turn to him, and I can see that he's sad. Like there's sadness in his eyes. And I was like, "Hey, are you sad?" And he was like, "Yes, yeah, I'm sad because Firmino's leaving." It was very interesting. I think that might have been the first time, because there's been other players that is left. Like when Coutinho left, I told him, and he was younger. He was about 4. I said, "Hey, Coutinho left the following day," and he was like, oh, "I can't believe it." But there was like genuine sadness in him. That was very interesting. I don't think that's happened before with any player leaving specifically, and he's had that reaction. Wrath is an attribute that doesn't. Sorry. Whoa, where did this come from? Gotta scroll up. I've been dialoguing with Pine Creek. Thanks for having him on. I didn't have him on. He called in, so it was his doing. I didn't. It was not prearranged or anything. He just came on. Wrath is an attribute that he doesn't want to use. I wouldn't say wrath is an attribute of God. I would say, well, I wouldn't say wrath is a necessary attribute or an essential attribute of God. I would say justice is. Wrath would probably not be the word that I would use, Elijah. Because wrath is kind of a receptive thing. It feels wrathful to the one receiving it, so therefore it's wrath. But I would say it's justice carried out. When I went to Anfield on the last day of last season, they did one for Origi. Yes. But Firmino's a bit different. He's a bit different. We're working on it, Keanu. I think we have something, so we are working on it. Well, I'm pretty sure we have something. Like there's a church, I found it. Whether she's going to like it and fit in and stuff is yet to remain and be seen. By the way, guys, these streams are going to be from 2 to max. The most I can go is 4:30. But probably 4. Do you think Islam teaches Muslims to hate Christians and Jews? I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether Islam teaches, like that's an active teaching in Islam. Yeah. Like you have to hate. Is there anything that you can potentially think about that would say, yeah, that's what it teaches? I found this video just popped up on my stream. I kind of want to watch it with you guys. It's 10 minutes. It's about Armenia. So I think it'd be kind of cool for some of you guys that don't know. And it's the video is titled, I left the UK to move here. Let's check this out, guys. I'm interested in this. We're good on that. And let's see.
My birthplace of the UK to move to a country that bought the world the ATM.
Okay.
I left my birthplace of the UK to move to a country that bought the world the ATM machine, the MRI scan, the colour TV, and the Kardashians. What country is this, you ask? America? Absolutely not. The small but beautiful country of Armenia. From this, I get 2 main questions. The first is, where is Armenia? And the second is, why?
Luca. Yeah, I know this guy. I've heard he has some big problems, big issues in England with the government. So the police is looking for him, and he's escaping from them in Armenia.
Hey, Andrani, you know, if you have a problem in Armenia, you don't have problem.
I don't have problem.
You have a friend like me? No problem.
Thank you very much.
I've been getting asked that question way too many times. It's getting a little bit annoying. So I've decided to make this video to answer that question once and for all. My first trip to Armenia was in August 2021. That summer, I'd already visited 10 countries, and I have to tell you, Armenia was completely by chance. I was in the country of Georgia, and I had about 3 or 4 days to kill before I went back to Dubai. I thought, do I just stay in Georgia? Do I go back to Dubai? Or do I go to one more country? And then, by chance, I see that the flight from Tbilisi to Yerevan is only 30 minutes long. I'd heard a few good things about Armenia already, so I thought, why not? What is there to lose? Let's go to Armenia. Now, when you travel, it opens your mind and it gives you an amazing new perspective on all of the countries and the country that you're from. So with 10 countries visited that summer, I was in a very unique place to judge Armenia. Within literally 1 hour of being in Yerevan, I loved it. And it just got better and better over the short stay. And by the end, I could honestly say that Armenia was my favorite country I've been to that summer. During the trip, I started making a few little videos in Armenia, and the reaction from the Armenians was so huge that I decided to hold a meetup in Yerevan after being in the country only 3 days. And guess what? About 200 people showed up. Wow. I thought, this is crazy. Before this trip, I had no Armenian fans. I'd never seen such crazy support and engagement from a single nation. Without further ado, I'm going to give you 5 reasons why I love Armenia. And the 5th one is very cool, especially if you're Armenian, so stick around for that. So reason number 1 has to be the people, the Armenian people. The Armenians are honestly some of the kindest, most hospitable, welcoming people you could wish to find. They're really nationalistic and proud of their country in a special, unique way that I haven't seen. Small population, 3 million, about 7 million Armenians around the world. So they kind of stick together. It feels like they're a family. The way I describe coming to Armenia, it's like Armenia, the country, is the home, and the people or the family. And when you come into their country, it's like you're stepping into their home. And you know they want to welcome you. Oh, nice to see you.
Well done.
Oh, take your shoes off. Can I get you a drink? Do you want something to eat? Get invited into their house to eat an Armenian feast. It really is a special feeling when you come. You feel like in Armenia, their house is your house. You're welcome as long as you want, and they're happy to have you.
I should add that even outside of Armenia, if you're interacting with Armenians, our house is your house. If you guys are in the southern, if you're in the Los Angeles area, let me put it that way, just hit me up. I'll take you out for some Armenian food.
That is how it feels when you come here. And especially being from Britain or somewhere like that, you're like an unexpected visitor.
Where the food is very bland. It's a shock to your senses.
Wow, I didn't expect to see you here. What are you doing here? Amazing. They're shocked, surprised, but grateful to have you there. So for that reason, there's not even the slightest 1% feeling of you're not welcome. You feel very welcome. And then you feel at home as well. And that's what's amazing about the Armenian people. Next thing I love is the city of Yerevan. Absolutely love Yerevan. One of my favorite cities. Just clean, nice, pleasant, beautiful, excellent. And the bonus is that it's very small. For me, I like that because you can walk around everywhere. Right. And there's so many great restaurants, cafes, places to go, things to do, things to see. You can just walk. You barely even need to use a taxi. If you do need a taxi, they're very affordably priced. And the level of English here, well, it's not the best. The main languages are Armenian and Russian. The level of English is decent. It's decent enough to get by with no problem. And if you do learn a few Armenian words, the Armenians go crazy for it. The other thing I love here is the freedom and safety that you get. Yerevan is one of the safest places. Armenia is one of the safest places you'll possibly go to. And that's without having crazy security cameras following you everywhere. The religion is strong. The traditions are strong. It's 99.9% Armenian population. So the people who live here care about their country. They don't want their country to be seen in a bad light. They would hate to think that you had a bad experience. If, for example, someone stole something from me, it wouldn't be a thought of, oh, look at this foreigner coming to our country. I'm glad he got robbed. It'd be, oh my God, this is terrible. This is bringing shame on Armenia. That is the attitude of the people. The Western countries that were supposed to provide you safety are going down the toilet. In London, New York, Paris, you are not safe at all. Can't wear a nice watch without getting stabbed or your arm chopped off. Got to be careful with your phone. Anything. It's crazy. It's getting crazy and crazier every day. Knife crime is going absolutely through the roof. And yet here, you come here.
Notice he said knife crime and not gun crime because he's from England, guys. If he was from America, he would say gun crime.
Enjoy, no worries, wear whatever you want, and guess what? Everybody will always say that even for women, you can walk home alone at night and you're never ever going to have an issue. And yet, the perspective from the media is it's not. I've told people from England that I live in Armenia, and they say, oh my God, is it not really dangerous there? I'm thinking, have you been to London recently? Oh my goodness. And here, totally different story. Reason number 4 is culture and traditions. Armenia has retained what makes it Armenia. The food, the wine, the people, the attitudes, the way people are with family. Armenia is unmistakably Armenia, and Armenians are unmistakably Armenians. And it's for better or for worse. It's got its quirks, you know? Correct. It's got the taxi drivers who drive like crazy and look at you funny when you try and put your seatbelt on because they're thinking, oh, are you insulting me? Are you saying I'm a bad driver? You're putting a seatbelt on? Now, because the culture and family traditions are still strong, I can tell you, if you're a guy from the West and, you know, you're looking for, let's say, a wife who's loyal, loving, virtuous, hasn't slept with the entire town, your chances of finding it here in this part of the world are way higher, way higher than if you live in the UK.
He's right, gents. He's right. That's a truth bomb right there. That's a truth bomb right there. He's right. The man is right.
US. Just saying. And reason number 5, and this is one that's surprising, and that is the
I should say that his shirt, the green hoodie he's got on it, it says Azat Mart. That means free man. That's cool.
Of the people. When I came to Armenia the second time, I noticed there were so many talented people here who were just waiting for the opportunity. And that's why I decided to set up my office for my media influencer talent agency in Armenia.
Cool.
And my office is in that building, just over there, in the beautiful square here, in front of Moscow Cinema. In the summer, this fountain will be looking beautiful, but it's kind of a bit cloudy today, so maybe not. But yeah, I set up my company here. I have amazing Armenian staff here. They have a beautiful attitude towards work. They're grateful for an opportunity that's handed to them. And this is exactly the opposite of what you find in places like the UK. You get entitlement, you get people who go to work, not for the challenge and the opportunity. And yeah, it was quite refreshing to see. And that's why I decided to bring my resources and opportunities to Armenia and open the Armenia office, which is great. So if you are Armenian,
I've walked by that building a lot of times.
Armenia, then we have opportunities for you. Email your CV to this address here and we'll be in touch.
If you're looking for a job, there you go.
Doing really exciting things both in Armenia and internationally, and we want more people to be a part of it, who are hungry and have the drive to do something special with their life. So get in touch, speak to you, or meet you very soon. So yeah, that is the 5 main reasons why I love Armenia. And let me tell you, the people in England where I'm from, they could not even point to Armenia on the map. In fact, they think I'm in Romania. And guess what? The Armenians, they can't believe it.
That was some Andrew Tate vibes right there, huh? He's like, they think I'm in Romania. Jab, jab, Andrew Tate.
Here either. But yeah, they need to know what is great about their country. The Armenians are very humble, you see. It's kind of like the beautiful girl who doesn't know she's beautiful. And when you tell them you're beautiful,
thank you,
their eyes light up. And that is the exact reaction.
It's always interesting seeing a foreigner, not just a foreigner, but someone who's not ethnically Armenian, notice certain things. I find that very interesting.
Start telling an Armenian about how you love their country. Got a home here, got the office here, got the Armenian staff, haven't got an Armenian wife, although I've had many offers. Had to reject them, had to break some hearts.
Someone find this man a wife.
Are there any negatives? Well, I guess, look, it is a small place, so if you don't like small places, you know, that can be annoying, I guess. For me, I like it. After 2-3 months, maybe I want to get out and go somewhere different, but, you know, that could be a positive or negative, depending on your perspective. And of course, it doesn't have the same, let's say, consumer conveniences as somewhere like...
You're so right. That's probably what I struggled with in Armenia. It was the consumer conveniences. He put it that ordering stuff on Amazon and it arrives in 2 days. Yes.
Dubai or London, where you can get everything and anything at any time of the day, whenever you want.
Right.
But it has its own charm. Now, of course, there is always the threat currently.
If that's his office, that's real cool.
of a war situation, and that is one of the things that it is to bear in mind if you come to Armenia. Of course, in the city of Yerevan, the capital, you're fairly safe. There's no problems at all. But, you know, on the border of Azerbaijan, there's always some danger. So, you know, it is advisable for most tourists to avoid those places at the minute. Hopefully, soon, everything will be fine. Every Armenian I speak to just wants peace in the country, and that's what we all hope and pray for. Of course, they had here the Armenian genocide, and you can do your own research on that. And we recently had the Genocide Day here in Armenia. But I believe that the hardships of the past have made the Armenian people stronger, more resilient, and let me tell you, more together than you could possibly imagine. And for me personally, as an outsider, I'm really optimistic for the future of Armenia. So that is it from our vlog here from Yerevan, Armenia. If you're from Armenia or you're from around the world, we've got some amazing content coming up, both here in Armenia and from around the world. So make sure you subscribe for more.
I've never seen this.
Say goodbye, merci chat, stay tuned.
He's got Armenian words he's picking up. I've never seen this guy's channel. He's got 514,000 subscribers. Luca Galone. I think he does magic and stuff.
Knife?
Yeah. What's up with Brits and their magic? That video was posted 7 days ago. It just randomly popped up. Very interesting. I think Alpha's giving you guys a Armenian history lesson, by the way, for those who don't know. This is a cultural show sometimes. So guys, we're streaming, we're chilling. There aren't many of us, man. We're potentially extinct. This video makes me want to visit Armenia. Hey, you can actually visit Armenia for pretty cheap. Some of you guys might want to do that. Oh, he said, is that the part of Armenia you're from? I'm actually not, I was not born and raised. I was born and raised in Echmiadzin, which is the religious center for the Armenian Apostolic Church. But when I went back and lived in Armenia in 2019, for those who don't know, I lived in Armenia for a year and a half with my family in 2019, setting up Apologia Center in Armenia. And we have video production in Armenian and various other ministry opportunities that we're doing in Armenia. And the whole point of moving there was to get an apologetics ministry going in Armenia, which we did, which has been phenomenal. And I visit there almost every year. I try to. I mean, we were there last year. I couldn't make it this year, but hopefully next May we can visit Armenia. And if it goes the way I want it to go, it's going to be awesome. Like really awesome. Okay. Not going to give any more info than that, but you guys will definitely be aware of it. So I lived there for a year and a half, and I lived in Yerevan, like the big staircase thing you saw. That was a regular trip for me. So yeah. Speaking of crazy amounts of YouTube subs, that guy from last stream that you were criticizing has well over 300K subs. Crazy numbers. Yeah, I know. That's why I was criticizing him. I was criticizing him because so many people listen to him. And he actually has a lot. For those who don't know, here, I'll actually pull this up. I'll pull up Don's channel because, so that's Don's channel. So he's got 360,000 subscribers. Okay. But what a lot of people don't know is that this is his original YouTube channel. And that channel has 2.4 million subscribers. And he does animations. Now, he hasn't done them in some time. It's like a year ago was, but they're really cool stuff. He's a very, very good artist. So yeah, he's probably deleted a lot of videos, but Jason, man, I'm mad at you. He is very talented. What am I spelling for you? I don't know what I'm spelling for you. So one of his channels are called Young Dawn Animations, and the other one is Young Dawn Reborn. If you just type in Young Dawn, it'll come up on YouTube. Alpha, we're good, man. We're good on the history lesson. Please, just don't spam up the chat section with all sorts of Armenian. Moving on. The Armenian history is so. The reason why I tell you is because Armenian history is so long that you could just name one person after another person after another person after another person that's done something. So. It's not going yet, guys. So the earliest you guys can see me without a beard is Friday. If Man United loses on Thursday, then you're gonna have to wait till Monday to know what happens. Because if they lose Thursday, they might end up losing on Sunday, and then Liverpool wins their game, and I don't have to shave at all. And then Jerome's got to call in and apologize. That would be so epic. See, but imagine if that happened. Jerome, what would you do? Leave it for the last day of the season. Don't prematurely celebrate. Relax. I'm ready for it, but all sorts of stuff can happen. So Armenia is historically very Christian. What I would say is that in the country, there's a Christian influence. There's a heavy Christian influence. But in regards to people actually committed to Jesus and following Jesus, I wouldn't say that's the case. Arthur, you mentioned in another stream that someone can be saved but not a Christian. Can you go into that a bit more? Can you give me the context I made that statement in, please? So the only times I think I could potentially make a statement like that was, say, like someone. Let me just give an example, right? Let's just say I go to someone and say, "Hey, put your faith in Jesus, and He will save you from hell." And this person says, "Yes, I believe that Jesus died for my sins." So let's just say that's like a very simple, surface level conversation. I go, "Listen, if you believe in Jesus, you put your faith in Jesus, because He died for your sins, He will forgive you, and your sins will not be held against you, so on and so forth." And he says yes, and then he ends up dying that night. So I would say that person's saved. Was he a Christian? Not necessarily, because being a Christian means a number of other things. Being a Christian means believing in the Trinity, believing in the dual natures of Christ. But I think they have salvation. Like, they don't need to get all the doctrinal. So being a Christian is beyond just being saved. So I think people can even be saved in ignorance. People could believe in simplicity, or they just understand the very simple message of the gospel and believe it without properly understanding all sorts of different nuances. So yeah, one can be saved without being a Christian. I guess that's the only way I can think about that. I could justify it and make a comment in those circumstances. You do. You only need, well, Newcastle's already guaranteed Champions League spot because of their results today. So the Man U is the only thing that's left. You guys heard it here. Okay, you guys heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. Jerome said, if Liverpool get Champions League now, I might as well become a Christian. Ladies and gentlemen, you guys heard it here. If Manchester United loses their next 2 games and Liverpool wins their game and makes it to the Champions League, Jerome said he's going to consider that the equivalent of a miracle and become a Christian. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Elijah, can I ask you a question? How long have you been subscribed to my channel? How long have you been interacting with my content? But I'm telling you, you guys heard Jerome say what he said, and it's going to be recorded, and it's going to be on YouTube. Just in case. Just in case, ladies and gentlemen. Just recently. So Elijah, one of the things that you should know about me, okay, is, and I'm not being a jerk, okay? I have a strong desire, and the purpose of this channel is to train Christians to give a defense for the Christian faith, but also the Christian worldview and way of life. When you make comments like this, and again, I'm not being a jerk, immediately I'm going to call it out, okay? Because it's not good enough. Okay, so being a Christian means to follow the will of the Father over your desires. This is not a good definition of what it means to be a Christian. It actually is a meaning. Like, let me replace it, right? Let me replace two words in there. Being a Muslim means that you follow the will of Allah. Okay? You're not telling me much here. Being a Christian, for someone to identify as a Christian, doesn't just mean you follow the will of the Father. Generally, yes, but it means specific things. For example, it means that you believe Jesus is God. You believe that Jesus is God and man. You believe in the virgin birth, and you believe in the resurrection of Jesus physically from the dead. And you believe that Jesus is going to come back a second time. You believe in the Holy Spirit. You believe in the triune God, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, co-equal and co-eternally God. That's what it means to be a Christian. So there's a lot more to it than just saying stuff like, it means you follow the will of the Father, even though that's included in there. So we're talking about this stuff sometimes in a more technical sense. We're talking about what it looks like to be a Christian in the technical sense, not necessarily in the sense that we might speak about things in our Christian circles where people around us generally agree with us. Because there's a lot of people in the chat, even right now, that don't agree with your Christian worldview. uh, hey, you got to. You got to. You guys are all conflicted. And he said, Arthur would say that sounds like a personal problem. I probably would say that. What's up, the American Cuban? Why did God need to command Israel that a woman's hand be cut off for trying to save her husband by touching someone else's genitals? I thought hand cutting off was an Islamic thing. It's also in the Bible. Hey, American Cuban, can you please give me a Bible passage that you're referring to, and then we can look it up and then see what's going on. So Deuteronomy 25, 11 to 12. um, it's very funny to me, by the way, that typically I will explain to you guys as to the way this question is asked and what the passage says. This is always why I say, let's look at the verses. Okay? I'll pull up the verse and we'll look at it, and I'll tell you what the difference is between the way you're asking this question and what the verse actually says. Okay, we're looking at Deuteronomy 25:11. Whenever people, not saying that the American Cuban is doing this, because I think he's repeating a question that was asked. Um, God commanded Israel to cut off a woman's hand for touching a man's genitals. Yes, it is an inaccurate representation of this verse. As we go into the verse, would you be willing to accept that you were wrong about your representation and your question in the first place? So let's look at the verse. What's going on here? Okay, and I'll show you how in the English it says it's different than the way you're asking the question. If you pay attention to the English, okay? At least in the ESV, I don't know what translation you're reading from. I have no idea what translation you're reading from, okay? So here's Deuteronomy 25:11. When a man fights with another man, and the wife of the one draws near to rescue her husband from the hand of man. Two dudes are duking it out, okay? Picture this. Two guys are duking it out. Bam, punching back and forth. And one of the wives of one of these men, if she comes to rescue her husband from the hand of him who is beating him, one of them's losing. The loser's wife comes to rescue her husband and puts out her hand and seizes him by the testes, by the private parts. This is not she accidentally touches his genitals during a fight. Let's go back to your question. Why did God command that Israel was, that a woman's hand be cut off for trying to save her husband by touching someone else? She's not touching it. She's crushing it. There's a fight her husband is losing, and the way she rescues her husband from losing the fight is by grabbing the guy's cojones and crushing them so that he never has kids again. The punishment for this is that her hand be cut off. Do you see where your misrepresentation of the text is? Even in the English, the way it puts it is, she puts out her hand and seizes him. Not touches it, seizes him. Okay, now, let's see what the NASB says. Okay. If two men struggling together, wife comes out, delivered as striking him, and puts out her hand and seizes his genitals, crushes it, guys. Commentary on this passage. This passage contains another list of miscellaneous laws. These laws also relate to the general theme of fairness and justice. Continuing with the section. This guy's not commenting much on it. I would have to find another. Okay, that commentary is not very helpful. Okay, so let's no, you said touches it. It's right there on the screen. Touching someone else's. She's not touching it. She's crushing it. So let's put it this way. Okay, let's say this is in the modern sense. Forget this for a second. I'll make my point. Rakia says, wow, is this the word of God? Correct, yes, because the Old Testament Deuteronomic laws were the state law. It was the federal law of Israel. Yeah, so there's all sorts of stuff. Let's say two guys are in a fight. Modern day, American society. Let's say two guys are fighting. Okay? Duking it out. One of them's losing. The guy who's losing, his wife comes out. And without any hesitation, puts her boot through the guy who's winning, puts her boot through his private parts, breaks and crushes everything there. There's punishment for this, correct? He could legally hold them responsible and hold her responsible for her actions. So, if a woman is doing this, this is essentially a law that is extremely harsh, so that this woman or neither any other woman would go around trying to damage someone of this sort. You realize what they're doing, by the way. You realize that in an agricultural society, your children and your offspring are your investments. By doing this, right, by harming this individual like this, you've essentially cut off all their descendants. You've cut them off from retirement. You've cut him off from having any future security in his life, financially speaking. This is what happens when folks read these texts and then don't understand the cultural background as to how you could be potentially harming someone by an act of this sort, and why the law would even be so harsh on you. You're ruining someone's life in multiple ways. They can't have kids anymore, which impacts their life, which impacts their marriage, which impacts their future, their retirement. So yeah, there's a harsh law against it. But it's not arbitrary. Oh, if two guys are in a fight, she's trying to save her husband and she touches someone's genitals. She's not touching his genitals. She's going out with intent to crush him and to ruin him. And so, yeah, she's punished. Do you think the way you asked this question is a misrepresentation of this verse? Is my backup question to you. Hey, Rukia, did you just go on Google or something and just type in the word genitals in the Bible? It's just hilarious to me. Just your follow-up question. Wow, a lot of generals talking about. You realize this is God saying that Israel was essentially prostituting herself out to other deities and was only after the pleasure, sexual pleasure. Just if you were going to do this, do it respectfully. Okay, crushing, not touching. I concede to that. Okay. But the cultural background doesn't take away from the cruelty. It's a cruel punishment. I didn't say it's not cruel. Her hand gets chopped off. But you realize the kind of damage she's done to this man. You realize that. You guys, I'm going to have to step away for a couple of minutes and I'll be back. So I want to see how I can do this. So let me see. I've never done this before. What should I do? should we do? Okay, I'll put up I'm gonna put up a video of Ruslan.
This is the Vanguard. I'm trying to make Van Goghs. Won't see this man stroke. Y'all talking who's canceled. I'm asking who sampled this. Whose man is this? Answer me this, riddle me that. Why your favorite rapper only make you dance slow? Never mind. Or slow dance, like when you tryna hold hands with your first crush, thinking life is like a romance comedy. But even hits rock Chris audibly. The oddity is obviously meaning you got no chance. So why you tripping on me being old-fashioned? Before I make my wife work, I'd be outdoor dashing. There you go, spazzing. The red pill hates you, yet I unplugged out of the matrix and remain faithful to my God who stays able. My soul's passion for you to see the sunshine, and it ain't closed caption, meaning the word is alive and active. You out your ever-loving mind if you think God is some old has-been. Who you calling when your soul crashing? Magic Sky Daddy riding around town playing more Maverick. So let's skip the cognitive dissonance now. You already know Christ is real. Stop fooling around.
Las Vegas, join me and some of you guys might be familiar with my boy Ruslan KD.
Las Vegas, join me for the Christian Influencers Convention happening July 26th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
We'll be doing a panel with some of the top influencers in the country, as well as a private, intimate meet and greet.
You can get tickets and more information by hitting the Eventbrite link below.
Don't miss this opportunity to come and hang out and spend some time with some of your favorite Christian influencers.
All in the beautiful city of Las Vegas. July 26th, I'll see you over there. Peace.
I'll see you there. What do you mean?
Ruslan.
Hey, you may not know I make music, but moving on. Mods!
Ruslan.
The Secrets of Hillsong. Episode 1 and 2 recently was released, and I had an opportunity to view both of them, and I wanted to share some of my thoughts with you guys. It's a very fascinating series, and there's a whole lot to go over, okay? I'm going to be playing you guys some clips in a little bit from the creator of the series. But for those of you guys that are not familiar, so Hillsong is a massive mega church with campuses all over the globe, and this series specifically explores the scandal of Carl Lentz and then kind of goes down the rabbit hole and discovers that this is more of a cultural systemic issue, if you will. And in the process, they discover that there's some other stuff with Brian Houston and some other cover-ups across multiple campuses. That's the basic premise of it. Now, episode 1 is primarily about Carl Lentz and the breakdown of what happened, and specifically with him, being super swaggerific, if you will. They play Pretty Boy Swag. And they are kind of highlighting Hillsong from the perspective of the reporters over a Vanity Fair and them uncovering this entire backstory. So that is episode 1, and it is being more or less recapping of everything that most of us who've been kind of loosely keeping up with Hillsong, we already know about it. But in episode 1, there is no Carl Lentz. He doesn't pop in until episode 2, and so that's kind of the best part, in my opinion, is he gets into all of the allegations. He addresses the stuff with the nanny. He, is very vulnerable. And I'm going to come back to that later. But before I get to episode 2, which is really, I think, the better episode out of the 2, especially if you're familiar with this, I think most of us really were curious to hear what Carl Lentz had to think and what was his impression of it all. And I'm going to come back to that. But first, let me just say this. This is well executed, great cinematography, amazingly shot, scored well. The music is nuts. The intro is like, this is a very well put together docuseries. Okay. And again, I've only seen episode 1 and 2, but let me be very clear that out of the gate, the creators of this clearly have an axe to grind, not just with Hillsong and Carl Lentz and Brian Houston. No, there is an axe to grind with Christianity as a whole in this, okay? And in this specific thing, they're definitely addressing some of the issues with Hillsong specifically in terms of them coming off more culturally progressive, even though they are biblically conservative, quasi-fundamentalist, right? There is a little jab from Mike Kosker, the guy from Christianity Today and the rise and fall of Mars Hill, and that the church is built around a capitalistic model. There is point after point about really issues with Christianity that the creators of this have, okay, with Christianity, not with Hillsong, okay? And at one point, Mike, I hope I'm saying his name right, but the guy from Christianity Today, Mike Cosper, I think is his name, at one point, he goes very much straightforward, like, hey, I know you guys want, Christians to be these, like, affirming of the LGBT community folks who are, like, what do you expect? These folks follow the Bible, right? And he just says that so plainly in episode 2. So, out the rip, it is, I would say, Mike Cosper. I said it right. Out the rip, I would say this documentary definitely has an axe to grind in terms of its views on Christianity, okay? And so now I want to share some of the thoughts with regards to Carl and with regards to the entire second episode. But before we do that, I got to show you something crazy. Hey, you want to see something crazy? Over 50% of the people who watch this channel are not subscribed. And out of the people that are subscribed, less than 10% actually have their bell notification on. So do me a solid. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure the bell notification is turned on so you don't miss anything we got going here. All right? Peace. Okay, so here is a clip from Variety's YouTube channel, okay? And this is them interviewing the director, Stacey Lee, about this entire series. I wanted to show that to you guys. I wanted to show this to you guys because there's some interesting things said here, and I can't show you guys the documentary, but hopefully I could share this without getting shut down. It's on Hulu, FX and Hulu, which I think is one company now. It's on there. I watched the first 2 episodes. I think the next 2 episodes are coming out this weekend. So check this out.
It's when you work with people who are media trained and things like that, they know how to answer things a certain way. As a documentarian, as a director, having worked with other celebrities before, my job is to break that down. My job is to humanize them. My job is to work through the stuff that you wanted to spit out first.
And listen, she's right. These folks are super media trained. She's right. Her job is to get the good stuff out. Carl Lentz, who's extremely charismatic, extremely well put together, knows how to answer questions. He's oftentimes going to give her what he wants to give her, and she is explaining that, I had to really press him on some stuff. Let me play you guys some more of this.
And get to the stuff that lies beneath it. Mm-hmm. And for us with Carl, that took multiple interviews.
I'm sure it did.
Certainly with any project, I think, that works on subject matter that's as complex as this, there's always an element of what still don't we know?
I'm so nervous about how this is going to be portrayed, but I cannot control that. So God, grant me the serenity to accept the documentary things I cannot change.
I can imagine from his side of the fence walking into that room after not speaking for, at that point, 20 months or something like that, where to start to even talk about, in his case, 44 years of his life that led to this 10-year kind of reign that was so epic, and the just as epic fall that came after it. But the reality is
I would love to leave it to that. So, you guys can watch the rest of that. But if you want to catch the rest of that, you can check out Ruslan's channel and watch the rest of the video. Here's the link to that if you were interested in enjoying that. I'm glad that most of you guys are still in here. And I just realized by looking on the screen that there's 28 people in here, but we only have 23 likes. So do me a favor, or as the young folks say, do me a solid. Who says that? That's probably stuff I've picked up from Ruslan. I don't speak like that. Do me a solid. Okay. hit the like button. Hit that like button, ladies and gentlemen. I like this. Yes. Yes, they don't live in the divine realm where we are not, we don't need that stuff. My tiny little water bottle. Okay, let's go back and see what we're talking about. Okay, I'm just going to consider my conversation with the American Cuban rather than the Rakia, because yeah, all you want to do is be like, oh yeah, you know, the Quran is so much better. And it's like, if there's one thing in the Quran that's wrong, let me here's the only way I will entertain you. Islam teaches that the Quran is not only inspired, but dictated. That's very important for you to understand. That every word in there is dictated, word by word, by Allah. If there's one thing that's wrong, that means the whole Quran is wrong. It can't have any mistakes because God is all-knowing. He can't make any mistakes. Okay? So, my challenge to you would be, are there any mistakes? Just because you can't blame it on translation, because Islam doesn't work like that. You have the Arabic, you have all the recitations, you know what it is. It cannot have any mistakes. So if the Quran has one mistake, then it's wrong. I don't have my Quran next to me, but here's the Quran. Since we're talking about genitals, by the way, that's the reason why I wanted to use this verse. Here's the Quran in 86:5 saying, there's no soul without a vigilant angel recording everything. Let people then consider what they were created from. They were created from a spurting fluid that has to do with semen, by the way, stemming from between the backbone and the rib cage. So according to this, where is it produced? Backbone and the rib cage. Okay. So there's a explanation footnote. In the footnote, it says, testes and ovaries are formed in the abdomen of the fetus during the first week of pregnancy before descending to the permanent place in the pelvis. Both are sustained by arteries originating between the backbone and the rib cage. As far as I know. By the way, that's not what it's talking about. It's talking about this fluid. This footnote is not about testes and ovaries being formed. It's about the fluid itself being formed. You can go look it up. That's just one of many that you can speak about where it's a factual mistake. And you just go, okay, if it's got one mistake, the whole thing is wrong. I can get into the religious conversation, talk about like how he just teaches like Jesus never died. That's wrong. Or that Christians worship Jesus, Mary, and the Father, where no Christian has ever worshipped Jesus, Mary, and the Mother as the Trinity. Again, just please. Try not to hijack my stream. Depends on what the mistakes we're talking about. Yeah, I think there are mistakes in the Bible. I think there are numerical mistakes in the Bible. I think the 2 Samuel 1. Yeah, but the Christian can. Here's the difference, guys. The Christian doesn't believe in the same kind of inspiration that the Muslim does. Christians believe in a verbal plenary inspiration, but we also believe that there's textual errors. And we're okay with that. That's a part of the Christian conversation. Okay, so we have no issue saying there's textual errors because we don't believe in the perfection of the text that we have in our hands, right? So this Bible that I'm holding, we don't believe is right in regards to its transcription is perfect. You got to understand the difference between Christian inspiration, the verbal plenary inspiration, and then the Islamic view of inspiration is dictation. So every single thing is dictated. It is said and someone wrote it down. Christians don't believe that. We also don't have the same view in regards to the communication of the text further than that. Muslims preach and regularly teach that they have a perfect line of narration, unbroken, from the time of Muhammad. So that's why if there's one mistake in the Quran, the whole thing is false. You can't say the same about the Bible. I'm not saying that just because I'm a Christian. Go talk to non-Christians who speak about these things, because Christians don't have that same view. We don't believe in dictation. So it's not going to apply. We deal with textual variants. We deal with various sorts of things like that, where the Muslims don't. They can't. Their system doesn't allow for that. So all this stuff about numbers that gets thrown out, it's like, and then what? We don't believe the same view. We don't have the same view of the text that you do. So you deal with your own stuff. If there's one mistake, then it's completely different. Yeah, more than welcome to call in, guys. I'll have a live link dropped in, and you can call in and we can have a conversation. Thank you, Jerome. You heard it, guys. If you want to read a perfectly preserved scripture, what did I just say? Which is the word of God brought down by the angel Jibreel. I invite you to read the Quran. Guys, please read the Quran. Please read the Quran. I got 2 of them sitting around me. I got 2 of them in my bookshelf right there. Hi. Just so look, only if the Muslims read the Bible like the way we read the Quran. Please read the Quran. I advise you guys, read the Quran. I was going to read something. I'm not going to read it. You can call in tomorrow, by the way. No call-ins today, guys. Plus, I got to leave soon. I've been on for an hour and a half. I got to leave soon. I said latest 4 o'clock, so. Hey, stop watching TikTok videos and repeating them on my channel, please. Just please stop. If you haven't looked at the reasoning behind these things, and if you don't know that days are 12-hour days, just please stop. Okay, you're not the first Muslim on this channel. You're not the last Muslim. If you're going to be respectful, like some Muslims are, and actually give things of substance, we'll deal with it. But if you're counting things based on our calendar, again, you like literally, I mean, you just Googled the word genitals and then found in the Bible, and then found some passages in Ezekiel. You even wrote Ezekiel wrong. And then you're like, look, it talks a lot about genitals. Correct. And then what? Oh man. I get sucked into these conversations. You can just Google what the Christian response is in regards to why 3 days. Why the death, the resurrection is 3 days. Okay. Like I said, just don't watch. So start counting when Jesus dies. Friday morning. That's day 1. Right? Friday night. Where the Shabbat starts. Till morning. Day 2. And then day 3. It's just these things. The fact that we have to explain these things. If you know the calendar, go look it up. Moving on, guys. Moving on. I think I've given too much attention to this. The American Cuban was asking some good questions, so not to ignore him. But yeah, I mean, you think that it's cruel. My response is, when you and I don't necessarily disagree that it's cruel. Putting people. Let me ask you this, man. Do you think putting people in jail is cruel? Which is like, this will help me and stuff. So how many of you guys think it's very cruel to put people in jail? If you don't think putting people in jail is cruel, put it the number 2 in the chat. If you think that it is cruel, put 1 in the chat. Vicente, when you speak about the infallibility of Scripture, that conversation is about the original manuscripts, not textual errors that potentially can be in the text. So everyone that speaks about infallibility will speak about it exactly the way I just said it. I believe the Bible is inerrant. Yeah, inerrant and infallibility has to do with original manuscripts. It's unless you're a King James onlyist, you're not talking about the Bible you hold in your hands is without error. The only people that would argue for that are King James onlyists. Go look up the doctrine of inerrancy and infallibility, and then you would say, what's going on? Do you guys think the prison system, right, is cruel? If you do, put the number 1. If you don't, put the number 2. I think it is extremely cruel to take human beings and put them in cages. I actually think, okay, I'm going to go out on a limb here and I'm going to make a comment. Okay. Which one do you think is more cruel? chopping off the hand or locking someone away in a cage and letting them rot there. I know, like, we immediately look at these things and we think, oh, the barbaric, we chopped off his arm, or the death penalty. Oh, we killed the person, right? Yeah, but you're okay with locking someone behind bars amongst other criminals where, like, there's nothing constructive about that entire system for 20, 30, 40 years? And we call it rehabilitation. I think that's extremely cruel. To take a human being, which I think human beings are naturally meant to live free lives, and I think the way we're going to thrive best is by having freedom, okay, within correct and proper virtue guidelines, and stick them in cages. See, the prison system is a result of the dungeon system of the Middle Ages. And I think that's very cruel. In the Bible, you get punishments of this sort, and then you get death penalty. There's crimes you commit where you're punished by death. Because they're heinous crimes. They should just not be tolerated, right? In some cases in our society as well, in some cases their society as well. Because it's not real rehabilitation, guys. You chop off the lady's hand who crushed the genitals of a guy in a fight with her husband, therefore ruining his entire life. I don't want to put that beyond, like, you realize, by the way, in the modern legal system, there's a concept, and if there's lawyers in the chat, you guys can educate me on this. I'm not a lawyer, okay? But there's this idea of whether you're using equal force, right? Like, it's the same concept as if I was in a fight with someone and we were just using our fists, right? We're going at it. We're fighting back and forth, and then I picked up a rock and smacked them over the head. Then I'm tried for murder, right? If I'm like a quadruple black belt in whatever karate or taekwondo or something like that, and then my hands are essentially weapons now, and I go and beat some people down, and I beat them really bad, I could be tried for murder because my hands are weapons. There is laws on this stuff, guys. And when we think about the modern legal system, we're thinking about whether the reaction or the action is on the same equal level as to how we're going to look at that situation. Two guys are fighting, equal fight. One of the guy's wife who's losing comes out and crushes the genitals of the other guy, therefore bringing him to ruin potentially. That is not an equal reaction to the fight that is happening. Therefore, she's punished for it so that she would never do that again. If you guys want to talk about consistencies and inconsistencies in law, because we're just speaking about law. And you guys are, how do you put a financial value on this woman? Let's just say we were going to financially fine her and say, hey, woman, you got to pay this guy this much money. How would we determine the amount of money she would have to pay him for his retirement, for his potential kids in the future, for the well-being of his life and family, and the impact there is societally on a family not having any kids, all these things. So we just ignore it. We go, oh, look, it's cruel. They chop off her hand. We don't talk how cruel she was when she ruined the guy's life. If you get in a fight with a woman who's pregnant and you kick her and she miscarries, they try you for murder, even if she's on the way to get an abortion. That's our legal system. So you guys got to come up with your own mindset. Look, I'm talking about the United States, by the way, in regards to our prison system and what that looks like. And so please, Sweden and whatever you guys are bringing in, we can have those conversations. What I'm just saying is, you got to understand the crime within its legal parameters and the way that the law was carried out in the ancient world. No, Saperaude, it's not just to compare Islam to Christianity. It actually has nothing to do with Islam. Somebody asked the question whether, isn't it cruel that God in the Old Testament is punishing people in this way? That's interesting. Being ostracized while still living in society is way more transformative. Hey, Rakia, more than welcome to have a dialogue. But again, if you're not going to listen to what I'm saying in regards to equal actions to the fights that are happening and unequal responses, then you're just not paying attention. You're not here for a dialogue. You're here for whatever else that you're here for. So, yeah. It is a nuanced discussion, Christian, no doubt about that. But again, what I'm saying is it's very easy. The reason why I bring up the prisons, because most of us don't even think about this. Most of us don't sit there and say, what a cruel system we have. We are such a cruel society. Look what we do to people. We lock them up in cages like animals for many, many years. Shame on us. And you don't speak up about it. I don't speak up about it unless this is the platform. Like, we don't go about like transforming our culture, but we sit there in such easy way. Look at, I would just say generally different cultures. And then we see things that are maybe a bit more violent, by the way. I agree. In regards to whatever hand chopping offs and stuff like that. By the way, there's a big difference between stealing something and then your hand getting chopped off and then crushing someone's genitals. Big difference there. If you don't know what the difference there is, you're not thinking about this properly. If you don't get the difference between objects and people, you don't understand what's going on, and it's not very maybe wise to have that conversation with you. Okay. Are we taking into consideration the person who committed the crime, or are we just talking about prison conditions? No, look, I'd say there are certain crimes, if you commit it, you should be given the death penalty. This is my personal opinion. So certain crimes, death penalty. Other crimes, I think restitution in various ways. You do restitution. What doesn't seem to be working is locking people away in cages for a very long time, thinking they're going to become better, which I think historically, at least in the United States, is proven to show that it doesn't work. Maybe there's another way, maybe there's an in-between way. That's fine. Let's have those conversations, but it seems pretty ineffective. Christian says, I personally rather have my hand chopped off than years of my life thrown away. Same. Christian said that. Yeah, but let's not be naive enough to think that somehow educating people is going to make them better. That's also not true. No, the text we were looking at was Deuteronomy 25:11-12, where a woman gets her hand chopped off for crushing the genitals of a man who's in a fight with her husband. I mean, are there any lawyers in this chat? Please, if there's any lawyers in this chat, please tell me how we would deal with this in our society. Like, I'm genuinely curious to know if this has happened and what we've done as a society. Let's say two dudes were in a fight and the girlfriend or the wife of one of them came out and crushed the genitals of the guy that's winning the fight. Like, what do we do with that woman? How do we punish her? This is cold. Oh, man. Sorry, Laker fans. He's a Nuggets fan. Forgive him. He's a brother in Christ. And he's genuinely a very nice guy. But some of you guys are like serious Laker fans in here. And yeah, it is cruel. Oh, East of Maine. Okay. I'm a former cop and now an investigator for criminal defense attorneys. Can you please help us in this situation? What would be the modern day punishment for a woman who does this? Two dudes are duking it out. They're fighting. And the wife of one comes out, grabs the guy who's winning the fight from the privates and crushes it, completely obliterates it. How would they prosecute her? It will be isolated as an assault she committed. There is a heat of passion stipulation for murder, but it's rarely used. I'm this has to have happened somewhere. Because I honestly don't know if anyone in modern day USA would bat an eye. Hey, I got a serious question that this is gonna get me banned. Okay, I got a scenario. Two guys are fighting. Okay? One of them is in a relationship with a trans woman, biological male. The biological male, who's the relationship partner for one of them, comes out, huge, muscular, biological male woman, grabs the dude who's winning the fight and crushes him. Do we try him as a female who did this or a male who did this? I just complicated this entire matter quite a bit, guys. It's difficult with so little information. Did the woman have a reasonable apprehension to fear that her husband was going to be seriously injured? I mean, those are good questions, correct. But it's a fight. Let's just say it's a fight. We're not going to look up Lorena Babbitt, and it's not the same. Jerome, you knew it. Good job. By the way, this is a
sickness of the highest order.
Hey, man, we live in a very confused society. all sorts of crazy stuff happen. I watch videos of folks sitting down and with serious faces saying things like, a man can menstruate. And that conversation is with like biology teachers. And the biology teachers are like, no, they can't. Like, yes, they can. Of course they can. Duh. Like, and yesterday I was watching something with, I think the opposition said, why do you have to bring science into this? Hey, these are the sorts of issues that I want to hold hands with Richard Dawkins and say, you go, Richard Dawkins, you tell them. You tell them. So yes, guys, Deuteronomy chapter 25, verse 11 to 12. Y'all need to read your Bibles. Department of Justice, Journal of Federal Law and Practice, November 2020, volume 68, number 5. I think there's something in here. Nope. Why did that come up? Keanu, because I haven't done like a thorough study on this, obviously. So, but it seems like the assumption there is that she's actually successful in crushing it. Let me see what that word is actually. It might actually be included in the word, the way it's translated into English. I don't like the English translation where it says that seizes him. That seizes him. Where is it? Actually, let me just put up a better commentary. That'll probably be the fastest way to do this. That's small. This commentator says, commentators are generally at a loss to account for the placement of the next case in its present juxtaposition. The clue seems to lie in the reference that 2 men and 1 woman in both this and the previous section, verses 5 to 10, as well as in the matter of progeny and anything that might threaten it. So it has to do with having kids. It's what this woman does to him that he can't have kids after this. So it's assuming that there's a crushing. There's no recovery. She doesn't just like hurt him. Okay? And by the way, they don't just like immediately, like, there's a court system in the ancient world as well. That's what the elders at the gate are. That's what you take them to. The situation was that 2 men are in a brawl, the wife of one of whom comes to her husband's assistance by attacking his foe in his private parts, and then there's the Hebrew words there, and it's essentially to like shame him. Besides the shame of this, especially in the ancient Eastern world, there was the real possibility of the woman could effectually have emasculated her victim, so as to remove any hope of his searing children. This, of course, would have rendered his plight nearly as serious as that of the brother mentioned above, who died with no male heir. That this was the implication is supported by the fact that the guilty woman had to lose her offending hand as punishment. I wonder, and I'm not sure about this, by the way. It's funny that we're having a conversation about this. I mean, this is a good question. This is a guess on my guys. Generally, when I'm guessing on passages, I'll tell you guys I'm guessing. I wonder whether this would include not just like grabbing and crushing, but actually using a knife or something and actually emasculating. This is modern day sort of stuff. Thank you, East of Maine, by the way, for this. If the woman was able to argue that she was believed her husband was at risk of serious physical injury, then she probably would not be charged with a crime. Correct. But if not, my assumption is if not. Like the assumption in the text is if not. Has this discussion devolved past the spirit of the original question? Yes, it's cruel law. Yes, crushing someone's testes is cruel, but we live under a new covenant. So yeah, what they're saying is, why would God give these sorts of laws is the question. What I'm saying is, I don't think we're approaching the seriousness of her actions because if we did, we would understand why it would be cruel. Why the punishment is she loses her hand. We seem to be ignoring the fact that what she's done is really, really bad. Bro, just don't. Okay, so here, I think Fenton's onto something here. Intentional castration would be a felony assault to cause major harm if you could show it was her goal. Correct. The legal system is complicated. The legal system in the modern days, what I'm saying is the legal system in today's day is complicated. The legal system in the ancient world was complicated. It's always easy to sit there. We look at these texts, we go, I can't believe there's a law like this. And you go, well, look at all the details of laws that we have in our society. Look at the stuff we do to people. Why not? It's a horrendous thing, Jerome. When you're talking about a society where your entire way of life is dependent on you having children, it seems to me that some of you guys are not considering how serious your actions are and the sort of damage this could do to an individual and their family. So let me just explain a couple of things. And again, this is not it's not necessarily the justification of it. It is understanding in a reasonable fashion of what is behind the cultural context. Suppose the guy that this happens to is married but doesn't have any children. Okay. Men could be contracted to go to war at any time, so they were more likely to die, right? They could go to war and die, and all sorts of stuff. Women could be left without, because they just didn't generally have the social structure for someone to take care of them. We all know widows and orphans were like royally screwed in the ancient world. And so one of the insurance policies for women was male children. Okay? That male children were an insurance policy for women who could potentially be widowed or in their old age. It is an insurance policy. They're not the kind of society that we are. And an individual goes in there and completely ruins this beyond any shadow of a doubt. Like, there's that insurance policy for him, for his wife, for the sort of work, the help and service. Like, these are all financial costs, are all taken away because of the actions of this woman. People are looking at it and going, oh, that's really bad. It's not just bad. You have completely ruined a person's life. And the punishment is you lose your hand. Yes, it is Old Testament law. I think Christian mentioned this, that we are under a new covenant. One of the things that I'm assuming you guys know, by the way, that the Old Covenant is a legal system where the New Covenant is not a legal system. So the New Testament doesn't set forth a legal system, but the Old Covenant is a federal legal system that puts that into place. Okay. Under Oregon law, she maybe would be charged with assault 3, which is a classic C felony, maximum 5 years in prison or $125,000 fine, or both. Thank you. I really appreciate this. That's Oregon law. So $125,000, what's the average income of the United States? Actually, since we're talking about Oregon, let's talk about Oregon, okay? Average income in Oregon. The average income in Oregon is $32,000 as of 2020. Individual income. Average household income is $65,000. What am I looking at? It says 32,000, but it's saying, oh, that's household. Okay. Individual income is $32,000 for a year. That's 4 years worth of wages, or 5 years in prison, or both. 9 years. Nine years. Hand chopped off, or 5 years of your life gone, plus an additional 4 years. That's assuming every single penny you make, you give to the person for 4 years straight. Oregon has weird taxes. Regardless, whatever it is. I hope I'm communicating kind of what's going on. Like, we look at other societies, we go, oh, look, that's cruel. Her hand gets chopped off. But we're okay with 9 years of someone's life just being completely eradicated. And we're not even talking about what. Let's just say they go to prison for 5 years. When they come out, are they going to be able to get a job? How is that going to impact their life? Like, it's not just 5 years that gets impacted. It's not that they lose freedom for 5 years. It's all the stuff that comes along with it. What if they have kids? Now they don't see their kids for 5 years. They don't see their husband. Their life, their entire life, everything could be ruined. But we don't consider that cruel, is what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. We sit in these places of judgment and then we go, oh, that's so cruel. It's heinous. Her arm got chopped off. But at the same time, we don't even think for a split second as to what 5 years of prison can do to an individual's life. And the way you can divorce the husband she was trying to protect, could potentially divorce her. You don't see your kids. You can't get a job afterwards. Your entire life can get ruined. The new covenant doesn't deal with laws like this. Hey, Rakia, you need to read the New Testament. You told people to read the Quran, but if you don't even know how the New Testament is written, so how would I not even answer that question? The New Testament is not a legal system. I just told you guys that the Old Testament is a federal legal system that we are no longer under, and the New Testament doesn't have a legal system. It's not a governmental policy. It's not a socio-religious economic system like Islam is, or like Judaism and the Old Testament establishes. That's not what the new covenant is. You said all of those bad effects would still happen and be worse if their hands were removed? Not their hands. Their hand, number one, and no, they wouldn't. How would it be the case that she wouldn't see her kids? Or she wouldn't be able to get a job or something? Or she would lose freedom for Jerome, how does that even make sense, man? What you just said is by far the most. Not going to continue that because I'm nicer than that. Think through this stuff, guys. Come on. Hey, East of Maine, I appreciate your contribution to this conversation. Thank you very much. Look, even if I was not a Christian, again, I'm looking at this purely from a legal standpoint. Sometimes we look at things and we go, wow, that society was so cruel in doing X, Y, and Z. Sometimes we're completely right on it, by the way. But we don't consider the cruelties within our society. Arthur, are you saying it's better and or more appropriate punishment to chop off a hand to send someone to prison? I'm not saying that's necessarily the case. I'm saying it potentially could be the case. Again, the punishment and crime and all that stuff would matter. In this case, we're talking about a woman who emasculates a man, completely ruins his life and his family's life for the rest of his life. What would be the appropriate punishment for her? Would it be to ruin her life and send her to prison for life? Would it be to take her children from her and give it to the other guy? What would it be? So, Sabar, what I'm saying is, I think it's, again, I don't know how to explain this better. We think we are so evolved and so much more humane and we don't have cruel systems and X, Y, and Z. While at the same time, there's quite a bit of cruelty. And we don't even consider situations to their details as to what it does to people's lives. I don't know how many people you guys know who've gone to prison, but I know quite a bit. For various things, by the way, for various things. And I've seen what that's done to them, how it's affected them personally, how it's affected their families, and even divorces and children growing up not seeing their parents, mom or dad. Now, do you know how bad that is for kids to completely be disconnected from their parents for 5-6 years? Going through their early kind of teens stage without any parents. Like, these are cruel things that they actually impact lives in really, really bad ways. But we don't consider those things. We don't consider them cruel. We just say, oh, so-and-so went to prison for 7 years. As though 7 years of someone's life is just a snap. I actually wouldn't be attacking Islam. Notice we're speaking about completely different scenarios. You don't even know what I would be doing, man. Why am I even responding to you? Go away. Should we consider possible infection in that day and time? I imagine the risk of infection was pretty high and not. So here's why I wouldn't do that. Because the text doesn't suggest anything remotely close to that. It doesn't say infection of death and stuff like that. Because if it would have qualified it somehow, infection and death, then she would have probably been put to death. Instead of her hand being cut off, she would have been found guilty for the death of the individual because her actions led to his death. And then in the Old Testament law, if you murder someone, your life is taken. We sent him to prison to stop from doing it again. Well, this is a female we're talking about. That's not what I'm saying. You are not understanding what I'm saying. Hey, I agree with you. We do have a lot of room. My question is not whether we have a lot of room for improvement and how it should be, but I'm just saying, okay, let's just say, okay, the law we looked at that East of Maine brought up, okay, was 5 years in prison or essentially 4 years worth of wages. Or both. Let's say it was beyond that. Let's say we fined the person $200,000, $300,000. We didn't cut off any arms, nothing, right? Like we didn't do anything like that. Would you guys think that was fair? Would you think it was fair if somebody did this and then the courts decided, hey, buddy, or this lady, you are now obligated to pay this individual, the defendant, a total of $350,000 over the next 5 years. You have 5 years' time, you got to pay him $350,000 in the state of Oregon, and your average income is $32,000. The invention of the woman's hand could easily result in that. Again, I think now we're assuming stuff about what things could be. I'm just going with what the text says. Come over for the game. I'm not going to come over for anything. No, I'm going to go play soccer tonight. I hope. My knee was killing me last night, so I'm really hoping that I can go play soccer today. It hasn't hurt today all day, so that's good. And I don't want to see the Lakers get swept because they're going to get swept. You guys are going to sit there. You're going to be depressed. I'd rather go play soccer. Maybe. But I do also have to take care of my kids and their... Okay, I got it. Guys, I said 4. I didn't even realize what time it was. Guys, I got to take my son to soccer. It's 4:20. We need to get on this now. So, very interesting conversation today. Appreciate it. Thank you for bringing it up. No, I don't want to know the Islamic answer because I got to go right now. Maybe you can come on tomorrow and enlighten us with whatever the Islamic law says about genital injuries. Okay. With all that said, guys, thank you very much. I just realized what time it was. So I will see you guys tomorrow, 2 p.m. Do not forget, 2 p.m. See you guys. Take care. God bless you.